Welcome everyone to this evening's webinar. I want to welcome you to this webinar presented by the Sashbear Foundation. This evening we have a guest, Karen Waddell, who is a mindfulness teacher in Toronto and online now, so presumably beyond Toronto as well. We're very pleased to welcome you again, Karen. I'm just going to put up my slide so that people can read the title of your presentation and see your name while I talk about who you are. So Karen is a certified trauma-sensitive MBSR teacher trained at the Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, Healthcare, and Society at the University of Massachusetts Medical School and the Mindfulness Center at Brown University in Rhode Island. She holds a diploma in community service work and studies conflict resolution at the University of Waterloo. She teaches the transformative 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course in classroom and corporate settings, and now online, and is one of the first to really pilot the entire program in an online setting because of COVID. Karen is a longtime Sashbear friend and supporter. She was involved in the documentary series Borderline Personality Disorder, Having a Life Worth Living, that was produced and released by Sashbear in 2016. And you can find out more about Karen herself and her mindfulness instruction and all the programs she offers through her website at mindfulnessdimensions.com. And just before we get to Karen herself and her presentation, I want to go through just a few little housekeeping points. So I want to let you know that we can take some questions at the end. We probably will have only a few moments for questions, and Karen would like to really focus those questions on your experience of the mindfulness moment or the mindfulness experience and practice that she's going to lead us through towards the end of tonight's presentation. We have, we have the chat available to you, and we also have the Q&A section available to you for you to post questions in. The webinar is being recorded, but because it's a webinar, all of you are hidden. It's only those of us who are part of the presenting platform here who are visible. So let me just introduce you before we move on to Kathleen, who is going to be helping me with tech support and also with the questions at the end. I'm Doreen of the Sashbear Foundation, and Karen Waddell, of course, is our special guest. And one other note, I just want to let you know to watch your email inboxes for information about our upcoming Sashbear Web Walk, which is our annual major fundraising event that will be happening throughout the month of May. So if you go to our website at sashbear.org, you can follow links to find out more information and find out how to register, how to participate, and how to donate to the Sashbear Foundation so that we can continue bringing you these amazing presentations. So now I want to introduce you to Karen, and please take it away. It's all yours, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you, Doreen and Kathleen. I'm so happy that you're there, and it's just so lovely to be invited to this presentation, to offer a presentation. And gosh, I have been around Sashbear a long time, and I just love everything to do with Sashbear, and I'm very happy to be involved with Sashbear community in any way I can. I like to start with a poet, Mark Nepo, who I've been studying recently. This is an excerpt from Breaking Surface. You are only the explorer. You are the only explorer. Your heart, the unreadable compass. Your soul, the shore of a promise. Too great to be ignored. You are the only explorer, your heart, the unreadable compass, your soul, the shore of a promise, too great to be ignored. I often like to start my classes with poetry, or sometimes interject poetry into my mindfulness sessions, because these exquisitely simmered down words on the page help me point you to the places I would like you to deeper explore. The poet's expressive voice is perfectly geared towards being supportive in exploring the soul. Their words are they either gently or wildly guide us to know ourselves better. I personally may read or sit with a poem in the morning to inform the rest of my day. Poet Mary Oliver, also an American poet, also has something to say about poems. For poems are not words after all, but fires for the cold, ropes let down to the lost, something as necessary as the bread in the pockets of the hungry. So during the lockdown, I finally got around to building my mindfulness website. And at some point near the completion of my web builder, my web builder tasked me to name the landing page, the home page. So I sat with this invitation for a while to name it, and a few things came to mind. And then I sat with it a little bit longer. And when I simmered down to what would best represent, encompass what I teach? What is at the core of mindfulness? Well, in the end, it's really about waking up, becoming aware, waking up to the only life we really have. And it's an awakening out of a state that we would call perhaps mindlessness, I should say. All those ways we get caught in autopilot or stuck in habitual behaviors or maladaptive coping patterns. How many hours in the day do we live in a trance, asleep to what is actually here for the moments of our life? Unless perhaps it's really exciting, like a sunrise or a sunset. And I'm just going to share the screen here because I'm excited to share what I put together this weekend. Oh, perhaps it's gone away. I'm just thinking it was here. Let me see. Oh. I am not a technical person, and this has not worked. So I wanted to share the screen of leave that. Of my website, but that's not going to happen because it's not up there. That's okay. But maybe we can share that at the end of the webinar. That would be great.
Yes, I will find it for you.
Yeah, I had it up there, and it is, like most things happen on my screen, it disappeared. So we were just looking at it actually before we started this talk. So eventually, after consideration, what I would call this website, I decided to call it, or arrive at, Discover Falling Awake. So this is what I will attempt to speak to tonight. Not too much though, because I would like to offer you a little bit of guided practice as well. I hope that sounds good for you out there. So yes, discover falling awake. That is exactly what I teach when it comes down to it. And the discover part adds that it's a process, this falling awake. It unfolds over time, this recognition of being with what is here as it is happening, beyond liking and not liking, beyond opinions about it. It sounds easy, but it can be one of the hardest things in the world because we have opinions about everything and they can get in the way of really seeing. So people who know me know I love the rain. I love to walk in the rain. I also love being out in the snow. I love all weather conditions, actually. When I was younger in college in Montreal in the 80s, it's dating me a little bit, out of a curious interest to learn more, I took a couple of outdoor survival courses through the college on weekends. And we actually stayed out in tents overnight in January in -20, -30 degree weather sometimes, and lived to tell the tale. And I remember we had this great instructor who ran the program. He was known to say that, guys, there's no bad weather, only bad clothing and equipment, of course. So if you're prepared, you can roll with whatever's thrown at you, sans fixed opinions about it. So can you see the rain for simply the rain? Perhaps you might even see the beauty in rain, the smell, the freshness, the sounds of the rain. Feel the gratefulness for the watering of the earth. Falling awake is the invitation to see and accept anything for what it is, the direct knowing, so to speak, and simply to let go of all that extraneous commentary of whether you like it or not, or fixing it in some way to suit you. Mark Nepo, the American poet, offers a beautiful illustration around this in his poem. And this time I am going to share a screen because I know it's here. There we go. So this poem is called Life is a Keyhole. Beneath the cloud, everything is gray. Above the cloud, everything is light. Calling the cloud unfair is being a victim. Trying to conquer the cloud is being a hero. Calling the cloud a cloud is the beginning of peace. I'm going to read that again. Beneath the cloud, everything is gray. Above the cloud, everything is light. Calling the cloud unfair is being a victim. Trying to conquer the cloud is being a hero. Calling the cloud a cloud is the beginning of peace. So, do you remember last time that I was here? I shared an operational definition for mindfulness. So, just to review, mindfulness is the awareness that arises when you pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises when you pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. By responding non-judgmentally and freshly to the events and experiences of our lives, we cultivate the capacity to be non-reactive to circumstances that might not require us to be so reactive as we think. We're more likely to stay grounded, more easeful, and respond with more wisdom and presence, no matter what life throws at us. By observing things or events or people through the lens of non-judgment, we take away a kind of veil to be able to see with fresh eyes, rather than falling into our usual, making assumptions about them. I mean, how do we know if something is good or bad or really? I mean, who knows? When we pause and refrain from making an assumption, it reconnects us with our innermost selves. We begin to see clearly that our thoughts are not really, they're not really reality. So thoughts are not so accurate as we thought. Going back to a rainy day isn't a dreadful day. Really? It's just a rainy day. Reality is what's left when all our judgments and assumptions have softened. I hope that makes sense, because this is falling awake. If you pay attention to the thoughts that dart in and out of your mind all day, you might be surprised. You might be surprised at how often you pass judgments about everything. There's things, events, people, as well as yourself. Mindfulness involves becoming aware of the mind's content, all those thoughts. So what does it mean to be awake to the judging thoughts, for example? Well, you might simply note, I know there is judgment here. And hopefully without judgment, that you know that there's judgment there. And then unhooking from the thoughts in a gentle manner. This way we may learn not to take the thoughts so seriously and begin to see them simply as mental events passing by, constantly coming and going in the mind. And in due course, we discover a liberating insight that thoughts are just thoughts, not reality. With this insight, this falling awake to the nature of thoughts, thoughts lose their hold, their power over us. Now, it takes some training via daily practice to fall awake to thoughts. A great place to practice is in some formal meditation practice, and we're going to engage in that in a few minutes. So the potential is there. It's always there to be fully awake. It's as simple as a taste away. It's as simple as a sensation away, a breath away, or a sound can anchor us into the present moment, to drop into wakefulness, to know what is here. I mean, that's all it is. It's that simple. And yet, well, it can be one of the most difficult things in the world for all us humans to tap into it consistently, to try to sustain this type of present moment attention. So this is why we practice. Like you would tone a muscle in a gym. I mean, the good news is that over time, it gets easier to drop into your experience of experiencing life as it is happening. This knowing what is here at a given time, this is awareness. This is the awareness that is alluded to in the operational definition I mentioned earlier about mindfulness. Simply, I know what is here. This recognition, this is awareness. And of course, we're going to miss moments of being present because we are distracted by one thing or another. We could be caught up by thinking or some emotions or busyness. I mean, that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine, because now, how interesting is that to become aware, to become awake to what has distracted us? And no matter what has distracted us, there's always a next moment to begin anew. How? We offer ourselves pause, maybe in the form of a couple of breaths, and then we gently drop into the wakefulness of this moment, the now, and the next emerging moment. After we leave each other tonight, you might want to explore the moments of mindfulness with no agenda whatsoever, other than to be aware of what's going on. So maybe as you brush your teeth, that you could really be there for brushing your teeth. Maybe when you're preparing your bed or saying goodnight to loved ones. Just one moment of awareness can you be there for? And then experiment if you can, stream 2 moments of mindfulness together. It's not so easy in the beginning, so please don't be discouraged. Bring some light and playfulness to this investigation. So just so you know, mindfulness is not trying to get anywhere. It's about simply being and deeply listening. So not so much about doing, even though there's plenty of time in your day for important doings. We are called human beings, so perhaps we could offer ourselves some time in our day to simply be quiet, listening. In this moment now, as you drop into the present moment with acceptance of what is here, this is falling awake. So inside any moment of non-doing, there lies some space. And in that space, there lies choice. There's some wisdom there, some insight, and some creativity, some new possibility in the face of old habits of the mind. That place of wholesomeness before and beyond who we think we are, before and beyond all those ideas and opinions that may shape and sometimes severely limit our view of the larger world. And of course, at some point, you're going to have to get back to doing in your life. There are things that have to get done, but when your doing comes out of being, it is far better doing. It will be more awake, full of more skillfulness and creativity and a whole lot less effort. You know, mindfulness holds enormous value in that it profoundly and completely, it's up to the challenge of relating wisely to any experience, so pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe not much going on at all, wanted or unwanted, horrific or unthinkable. I have come to know personally that mindfulness is capable of meeting and embracing suffering head on. I can't tell you how many times that has helped me. It's been there. Recently, I had a radiologist at Mount Sinai last fall tell me I had an object of concern in my body. I had to wait a very long time to get the results from the pathology department because, well, there were delays in the hospital associated with COVID-19. If times were normal, I would have usually found out in less than a week, but it was a month and a half later when I finally received the news. It was benign, so all was good in the end. But I tell you this story because in the first initial hours of hearing the news, of course, there was normal anger and tears, fear, sadness. But soon after, while I was waiting week after week after week, I was calm, even positive. I was okay with waiting. And my good husband, John, maybe not so much, but I was reasonably fine with it. In fact, he was amazed at how could I be so fine with it? It was my practice, plain and simple. It was there when I needed it most. It supported me not to think ahead of what might or might not happen. After all, I didn't have cancer till I had cancer. So why live there? Why waste my energy there? Also, my mindfulness gave me the confidence that I would face whatever I had to face if and when the time came. So instead, I set the intention to enjoy every day fully, each day for what it was, being okay with not knowing. So this is just one instant in my life that my practice was there beautifully when I least expected it to be. This being awake, this way of being is one that we hardly ever pay attention to or appreciate or inhabit as adults. Young kids live there or appreciate or inhabit this being there. But young kids, they kind of lose that kind of focused attention after about 5 years or so. So ironically, we don't need to acquire anything here. It's already here. We just are born with this ability to know what's here at any given time. So as adults, we just need to remember to familiarize ourselves with it again. And the reward for being in the moment is that we see differently, we hear differently, and we perceive differently. And we rebound much more quickly from adversity. There's more adaptability, more emotional resilience. I mean, when you allow yourself to truly experience the here and now, you'll find that this moment right now is actually okay and even pretty special. Until now, it might have been missed in the category of just, oh, this is just an ordinary moment because of that quest, that need to, look for something special, something really exciting. We might miss it, or we might need some distraction other than what's really here right now. So being awake and mindful asks us, could this moment be special enough? What happens when we offer it exquisite attention? No improvements necessary. Welcoming whatever is here, recognizing the actuality of life unfolding in this moment, beyond thinking, beyond words. To direct feel, this is what it is. It's knowing in one's bones, in one's heart. We go beneath the usual words and concepts we may apply to experience. It's a deeper sense. In that way, we can say mindfulness is an embodied practice. There's far more truth available in our body than in our mind. In mindfulness, we return to a deeply intuitive level, way beyond words that we cling to, those narratives that we cling to, found in our heads. When we drop into the moment, into the actuality of the now of things as they are, we come to know all moments are emerging, because nothing ever stays the same. It's the law of nature. Everything is constantly changing, shifting, and all around us. Sensations in the body are arriving and leaving all the time. Thoughts and emotions are coming and going if we don't hold on to them. Being awake asks us to simply observe all these comings and goings, falling awake to each emerging moment, and with consciousness and interest and with compassion, developing a love affair with what is. That's the heartfulness of practice, because once we recognize what is present, we can bring a tenderness there. So a convenient way to drop in and be awake is attending to experience via our senses. Can we hear what there is here to be heard? Can we see only what is there to be seen? Can we feel only what is here to be felt? The actuality of this sensation, what is happening in the moment now, underneath all our thinking, concepts, opinions, perspectives. These are not so needed in the process of falling awake. At the same time, all of that might be quite relevant as long as we're not attached to it. It's the clinging and attachment to our beliefs and our thinking that is a good source of our pain and our suffering. So falling awake, we come to our senses both literally and metaphorically. Why not? We only have this one life to live. You know, there are a couple of multiple waking ups possible in the course of a day. And then there's those significant ones in life that happen, such as the one I experienced 10 years ago when it came in the form of a concussion, a hit on the head, a wake-up call, a kind of turn me upside down kind of a wake-up call. Well, in order to move forward, it asked that I accept certain changes about the new me, which I did, embracing that wholly in the ensuing journey of the healing process. Changed a catastrophe into a gift in the end, an actual positive shift that pointed me in a much more interesting direction. a way of being in life I had not even imagined before or yet. I woke up to what was possible despite my injury. And the result was I found I was living lower in my body. I was suddenly in my chest, in my heart. I was letting my heart lead in the moments of my day. The poet Mark Nepo, and also a cancer survivor, explains that shift of living in the lower body like this. Like in early spring, in March or April, when the snow melts to the ground, it's like the understanding of life melted from my head and into the ground of myself. And from that point forward, my mind served my heart and not the other way around. So I engage in falling awake as best I can day to day. It's how I choose to orient my life now towards nurturing aliveness. I practice daily as best I can because I will fail as much as I am successful in being present, connecting with my aliveness, my authenticity. I'm human. I get numb, I get cranky, I forget, I break things, I inadvertently hurt people I love. But I'm awake, and being authentic means I own it as I am awake. I show up and I say I'm sorry to myself and to others on the path to learning more about myself. Then I'm responsible and responsive to what my actions have created. This is awake. So I'm going to conclude the talk portion of the presentation here, and maybe we can just put the question out there, or I can put the question out there for you. Could we explore, could we recognize the ways in which we are asleep in our lives by waking up? Might we move from what's distracting us in our lives to move towards paying attention to what's essential, from what is numb to what is alive? Could we move towards living more wakefully? What would it be like to set the intention to fall awake? So let's set aside right now to practice falling awake. If you're welcome to take a stretch, we've been sitting for a while here. You're welcome to do whatever's called for. Stretch the fingers, stretch the toes. And coming to sitting, whatever that is for you. And if sitting isn't comfortable for you right now, of course, you can stand, you can lie down. Nothing exact here. And I don't want you to set an agenda. I don't want you to think you have to have a really good meditation, whatever that might mean for you. Whatever it is, it's good enough. So we're not practicing to improve upon you or to fix you. We're just practicing to be what's here and to welcome whatever's here, to let be whatever's here. So finding your seat. However that is for you right now. I wish I could see you. Maybe have a little taste of ourselves here, to know ourselves a little better, live for ourselves, rather than the intellectual process here. This is very much embodied, what to know what's going on in the body. It's a kind of attention in real time. So coming to the body first here, maybe sensing contact of the feet on the floor, weight of the feet on the floor, weight of the thighs or weight of the buttocks on the seat making contact, feeling grounded there in the seat, and having a lift up. So there's an alertness here. I'm not trying to make you fall asleep in this practice. I want you to fall awake. So there's an alertness here, but it's not a rigid alertness. There's some flexibility, some pliancy here in your sitting. And if you feel that you need to move at any time, please do so. So you're welcome to close your eyes now if that's comfortable for you. And if it's not comfortable, maybe just offer a gaze just before you, some spot on the floor so you're not distracted by anything in the room. Maybe we could let go of whatever's happened before this presentation today, conversations, events that happened, giving generous attention to what's here right now, non-judgmentally, whatever's here. Not trying to change whatever's here, not trying to push away whatever's here. So as we sit here in our body, leaving thinking about the body and coming to the felt sensations of the body, these flickerings of sensations. It might come in the form of tinglings or pulsings, perhaps even a tickle, a throbbing. But what's interesting is that they arise, they linger, and then they go. So you might want to practice, say, if a tickle comes up, instead of going for it, to try and scratch it, see if you can watch the journey of the tickle. We're watching the journeys of these sensations coming and going. One sensation passes away and another sensation captures your attention. This vitality that's happening in the body, life happening in the body, and being aware of it, being present for life happening here. And as we sit here, you'll notice that the breath is entering the body, filling the body. So can we actually be with the breath? So the felt sensation of the breath, what can be noticed about the breath? Not thinking about it, not making it something. So what can we notice? Is the breath short? Is it long? Is it full? Perhaps noticing temperature of the breath, the difference from the in-breath and the out-breath, maybe more noticeable at the nostrils. The wetness. Maybe as the air hits the back of the neck, the throat. Perhaps it's more predominant in the chest. You feel the rising and the falling of the chest. Or the belly, the expanding and falling of the belly. Can we just rest there in the belly, letting the belly go? Soften the belly. No need to hold anything here. Weight to the breath, entering the body, leaving the body, offering again life to the body, vitality to the body. and sweeping out impurities. Breath breathing you. Don't have to think about it. It's taking care of you. In those little moments of transition in the breath, when the out breath becomes an in breath, these tiny little transitions. The in breath becomes an out breath at the bottom of the belly. Can you notice that? No two breaths the same. The breath has no agenda other than to breathe you, take care of you. No quotas to meet at the end of the day. Don't have to think about the breath. We can feel it when we give it attention here. We know of its presence. You're welcome to use the breath as a home base if you like, and refuge to go to. In this practice or the course of your days, just to settle, just to pause in the body. When you're ready, leaving the breath, you're welcome to linger there if you like, but if you care to, coming outside of the body to sound in the room, can that be noticed? And beneath the conceptual understanding of sound, can we just notice the quality of sound arriving at our ears? It might be a staccato sound, it might be a drone, soft drone, long, short. Can it be described? Can it be observed, reported on? Comings and goings of sound like sensations in the body. Even distant sounds going outside the room can be noticed there. Beyond even liking and disliking that sound, just falling awake to sound being present itself. Arising, lingering, passing. When you're ready, if you care to, why don't we even come to thoughts right now? Actually pay attention to thoughts happening. They've probably been happening all along. Mind has been drifting to thoughts, but we'll actually pay attention here. See if we can watch thoughts arrive and pass. We don't hold on to them. I like to think of the image of sitting on a bank of a river and Thoughts are like events traveling down that river, little objects. So not attached to thoughts. Can I be here for the next thought? And if it gets too much, of course, you can go to the breath, settle in the breath or sound or sensation in the body. Settle yourself and come back. Gently come back. And you'll notice with thoughts, there's these little energy packets, these feelings attached to thoughts sometimes, little stories, little narratives, liking thoughts, not liking thoughts, making up little narratives. These are emotions, these energies. Might be restlessness right now. You could just note, this is restlessness here right now. Isn't that interesting? How does restlessness show up in the body? How can I know restlessness better? And with thoughts, perhaps we can even label them as well as plannings or rehashings, ruminations, fantasies. This is a planning. And then gently let it go. And when you're ready, you're welcome to leave thoughts and come back to the breath. Bringing attention here, exquisite attention to this breath. Now this breath. This bringing attention is a precious endeavor. So you're rediscovering the familiar here, becoming intimate with the familiar, this body, this breath. How can I know it freshly? And in doing so, rediscovering what it's like to be human, experiencing life as it's happening right now, alive. Discovering, falling awake. To this one life we have been given. So when you're ready, offering yourself a little movement, very gentle with yourself, a little movement in the fingers and the toes. Very, very gently opening your eyes to the room, the environment. I wanted to end with one last poem for you. This is from Jon Kabat-Zinn. He wrote this. It's called Tasting Mindfulness. Have you ever had the experience of stopping so completely, of being in your body so completely, of being in your life so completely, that you knew what you didn't know, that what had been and what has yet to come, and the way things are right now, no longer held even the slightest hint of anxiety or discord? It would be a moment of complete presence, beyond striving, beyond mere acceptance, beyond the desire to escape or fix anything or plunge ahead. A pure moment of pure seeing, pure feeling, a moment in which life simply is. And that isness grabs you by all your senses, all your memories, by all your genes, by your loves, and welcomes you home. So thank you. Thank you today for showing up and being here and being here for yourself. I'd love to hear what, if there was anything discovered in that practice, if it was challenging for you, did you learn anything? I'd be really curious about that. I wish I could see you, but I hear that we can see your questions in the chat.
So yes, I would like to just let people know that if you are going to type into the chat, please do so that we know what that experience was like for you. However, try to select that you're sending your message out to panelists and attendees, and that way we all get to see the responses. So that we can all share in that. I just want to share with you, Karen, one that's come in already, who says, thank you. My mindfulness throughout that practice was accepting my Chihuahua barking loudly. It was nice to focus on her voice.
And it's interesting, because life is never perfect. It just isn't. And once we get over that, I mean, even for my life, some phone was going off and no one in the house knew to pick it up. So, but we deal with that, right? I mean, it is what it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all here. And we have a choice. We have a choice in any moment about how we're going to be reactive or, have a response to it, right? So, I don't worry about stuff like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love the focus for me on the sounds. And one thing I was very aware of is as I focused on the sounds without judgment, I could hear my ears ringing, which they do all the time, but I only really notice it when it becomes intrusive, and then it's an annoyance. Whereas in this, this practice of simply being noticing and accepting, it's just, oh, there's a sound, there's a ringing in my ear, and it's one of the many sounds around me.
Yes. And then you can use, if it is really irritable and too much to take, then find someplace neutral that you can rest in, right? Like you can use the breath. If it's not the breath, then something in the body, like the hands are a great place to go, or the feet grounded on the floor, or a sound in the room. A simple neutral place where you can rest until you feel settled. Yeah.
So Kathleen, I know you're probably trying to keep an eye on the chat. Did you have any comments that have come in that you would like to share or have Karen respond to?
We would like, Karen, the titles of those two poems that you used this evening. That seems to be something that's been a thread.
Oh, okay.
So I have the one, Tasting Mindfulness by John Kabat-Zinn.
Yes, that's
correct?
actually, yeah, Tasting Mindfulness by John Kabat-Zinn. So that's JONKABATZINN.
Okay.
And it's hyphenated because John took the name of his wife. Her last name was Zinn.
Oh, interesting.
Nice, yeah.
A little different.
And then the other poem is called Life in a Keyhole. Life in a Keyhole by Mark Nepo, N-E-P-O.
Mark, N-E-P-O.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've put those in the chat for those who wanted them.
And there's also another poem. There was an excerpt from a poem actually in the very, very beginning when I started the talk. It's from Breaking Surface. It's also by Mark Nepo. And yeah, it was, I just used a bit of that. I just used one stanza of that, but Breaking Surface was another poem that I talked about. Okay. And the other poet that I spoke of was Mary Oliver. I didn't use any of her poetry, but she's a lovely poet to go to, because these poets like Mark Nepo, David White, Mary Oliver, they're really poets that express the soul. That's where they start from. And so it really supports the work that you're doing here. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so those were the ones that I had. Otherwise, the comments in the chat, very much appreciated the mindfulness exercise. Some people are having problems focusing on their breath.
Yeah.
And is there any way that you can suggest that might work a little bit more beneficial? Or
yeah, because, you know, I understand too that the breath can be, especially if you're having, you know, some sort of anxiety or some dysregulation of some sort. The breath can be quite high up in the body, right? So maybe it's not a place that you want to settle in. It's not the go-to for everybody, and that's perfectly all right. That's, you know, I want to offer you choice. I want you to know that you can go to different areas. So today I sort of, you know, visited briefly all these little areas. So maybe there is a place in the body that is a nice place to settle. It might be the hands, it might be, you know, the belly, it might be the feet touching the floor, you know, or the thighs resting on the chair. Or again, it might be a sound in the room. So it's what's called for you. What, you know, there's no right or wrong in meditation practice. There's no right or wrong at all. Okay. In fact, a big part of practice is learning those choices for yourself, knowing what's called for yourself, being the guide for yourself. And not feeling that judgment, like knowing that you are servicing yourself by making those self-care choices for yourself.
Right. So there's another comment here that I really caught my attention. My body swayed ever so slightly with my heartbeat, and I had lovely neighborhood birds keeping me company. Oh. So a very delightful experience.
Sometimes, you know, because the breath is coming in, the breath is going out, and it's kind of like a cradling in a way, you know, when you get into the rhythm of the breath. I know I often move, I often go with the breath. It's not like a, you know, a stationary, rigid position for me when I'm practicing. I get into the rhythm of it. I love that. Yeah.
That was a good experience there. I do have a question here that just kind of came in. How to be mindful when a BPD child is having an escalated emotional dysregulation. This is really scary for a parent when there does not seem to be any cause. Any thoughts or tips for staying in the present calmly? Because you can't really go meditative on that.
No, you can't. But you can meet your child to where they are. That is being mindful, right? Connecting, blending with your child. you often hear about that in the exercises of Aikido, when, in self-defense courses, that, when an aggressor's coming at you, I mean, you can come with them at aggression, but it just explodes in more aggression, right? Or you can
Right.
roll over and play a doormat and, it's not going anywhere. But when you actually meet your aggressor to the place, the energy that they hold, and let them know that you're walking with them, you're going with them, that energy just naturally dissipates after a while. And they seem heard, they seem seen. And so there's a different kind of energy that enters that relationship there. And that's very mindful.
Okay. I think those are the main comments. Most of them really enjoyed the experience of the mindfulness exercise. The poetry added an extra dimension, so thank you. Beautiful. That's the breath. Restful and soothing. So really in touch with themselves there, being fully awake.
And here's the thing too, I mean, a lot, practice is not meant to be relaxing. I mean, it can be, it's wonderful if that happens, but it's a way in the end of turning towards everything, whether it is pleasant, whether it is unpleasant, learning to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, that knowing that you can face it, you will face it. When we're not so making stories about it, or beating ourselves up like this shouldn't be like this, it should be different than the way it is right now, but giving into the way it is right now changes the whole scenario. So yeah, it's not meant for just the good times, like. In fact, I always say to people when they come work with me, like, please come if you're having a rough day. Please come. This is the time that you need to be with the group or be with me, and we'll just be together with that, and we'll work through it. And not to be afraid of that.
That's so inviting. Thank you. I want to come work for you.
Well, yeah, it's it's funny. I was actually in therapy for some time in my life. I took psychoanalysis or whatever, and I just thought it wasn't going anywhere for the longest time. And then I came to this, and this type of work is very powerful. It's very transformative because it gives you autonomy. It gives you skills and resources. It reminds you of the resources that you might have forgotten, and it kind of brings to light maybe some of the maladaptive ways you're dealing with it right now that maybe helped you for some time of your life, but they're not helping you so much now. And just to bring that's the falling awake part, right? Is to know what's helping you and what's not helping you. So yeah. My clients don't have to stay with me very long before they go, oh, I think I can handle things now.
I got it, right? The last comment that I have here is, it helps to know that it's not just to find peace. Yes. It's okay. It's hard.
Yes. And it's, and it seems relatively simple, this kind of work, like, oh, just sit down and, look at what's happening here, observe what's happening. It's hard to be still. And so many people, I mean, I think it was Blaise Pascal said, one of the miseries of mankind is that his inability, and I'm talking about, female males, his inability to sit in a room quiet, right? Because when we sit quietly, then, things bubble up, things are revealed to us that we might not have seen before, because we're so used to distracting ourselves. We're so used to avoiding things, numbing things. But the way to peace, the way to get out, is to actually come to it, to meet it, to go towards it in a loving, kind, compassionate way. To be human.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Karen, for that. I'll pass it back to you, Doreen, if you have anything else to.
I just wanted to add, when we're talking about it being simple but not easy and so incredibly worthwhile, that is absolutely my experience with mindfulness. I honestly believe that learning and practicing mindfulness saved my life.
Yeah.
I was depressed and suicidal and dealing with so many mental health issues in our family. And I know that's the experience for many of the people listening, which is why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
And honestly, being able to find this other way that opens things up and allows you to accept and be in the moment,
Yes.
it is incredibly transformative.
Yeah. Yeah. All the shame, all the guilt, all the, the unworthiness, just, to embrace it, to love it, because it's part of you. It's not separate from you. It's part of you, and it's okay to be there. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
So
it's true. The more, the more we talk about it, the more we not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all that's necessary, right? To acknowledge what's here and to know that there are others struggling in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're all here to do this together. And I think that's part of why Sashbear works so well too, is that there's certainly acknowledgement that we're in this together. Yeah. We're here for each other. Yeah, that's what I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. All right. Well, with that, we've gone a little bit past 8 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight and doing this for yourselves, because this is a huge act of taking care of yourself and finding balance and resilience within your own life when we're all dealing with so many things right now. Thank you, Karen, for being here with us and sharing such a beautiful experience with all of us. I just want to let you know that you have fans. People are waiting for your book to come out. So I hope you're working on one, because people would really like to get more from you. So until the book comes out, please look for Karen's website and
yes, Kathleen, I'm so sorry. I kind of lost that. I had it in front of me and then it just disappeared. I had the website. So yeah, if that's part of this webinar, that'd be great, because there's a lot more on the website that you can investigate there and learn more about mindfulness. Right. It's very supportive.
It is, actually. I've gone through it and it's just beautiful and inviting and easy to navigate. So I posted it in the chat.
Thank you.
The website, your contact information, and that they can follow you on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if they want to.
Yes, and there's a new, I teach the 8-week MBSR, the Transformative Powerful course. It's coming up in May. I have a new offering that's starting in May. So just so everyone knows that it's an 8-week course and it starts at the beginning of May.
Okay. And that's also on the website.
Lovely.
Great.
Well, thank you, Doreen, and thank you, Kathleen, for doing this. This is all volunteer, and it's a wonderful thing that you do here. Wonderful thing.
You're welcome. Thank you, Karen, for coming again.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.